Okay, it's about 50 degrees out this morning, and I'm going to do a cold start. Engine is not running yet, and we'll take it all the way up to about 200 degrees on coolant water temperature, and we'll observe the fuel trims and the oxygen sensor function. You can see everything related to bank 1 is in the left column. The middle column is everything related to bank 2. So here we go. Fuel pressure was about 51 pounds after sitting all night, and is currently at 62 pounds. And that's pretty normal, pretty common. Currently we're running off of a working set of oxygen sensors at this point in time. I'm going to flip over to screen number 3 real quickly here. Come on. There's how I'm watching my misfires when I go to that screen. Now let me take us back to screen 1. There we go. I'm a little puzzled why scan gauge has the percent symbol for the oxygen sensors. I'm not exactly sure what that unit value is supposed to represent. I don't think that's millivolts, but the takeaway that I get from it, at least I'm watching the oxygen sensors oscillate, fluctuate up and down. So it tells me that they're working. When the oxygen sensor for bank 1 stays at just 0, then I have concluded that sensor is no longer working, and I'm calling it a dead sensor at that point. kind of boring, isn't it? Pan back here just a little bit. There's a storage building that this thing sleeps in. Okay, that's enough excitement. Oxygen sensors, in my opinion, are working properly right now. Fuel trims, well, we're still in open loop, so I'm not giving that much credibility at this point till we go closed loop, which should be any moment now. There we go, closed loop. Now let's see what the fuel trims do. I'm hoping as we approach 200 degrees on the coolant temperature that all the numbers are reasonable and look good, kind of like they do right now, in my opinion. Then I can use this kind of as a baseline for when the oxygen sensor is fresh and working. Check real quick here. I'll come back and check pending codes towards the end. I won't do that yet. Sneak over and check real quick my misfires. Yeah, those right now look pretty good. I thought I felt one a moment ago, but they're so random. Man, my fuel trims look really good. It's going to be very difficult today to take this to the service center, drop it off for them to diagnose when the fuel trims are looking this good and the oxygen sensors are working properly. Man, it's been a long time since I've seen such good fuel trims like that. Usually all the numbers on the left column, the oxygen sensor is at almost zero, or maybe fluctuating very slightly from 0 to 1 or 2 or 3 on whatever that measure is there, that percentage they're calling as a measure or a unit value. And the long term is pegged at 25 and the short term is 26. It runs really well, it sounds really good, but the scan gauge is indicating otherwise. By those numbers. Engine is running just like a little sewing machine right now, just as smooth as silk. I will take a failed oxygen sensor that I had removed yesterday from the left bank and take that with me in the event the service center wants to put the failed oxygen sensor in the left bank to create this condition and see if it generates those high fuel trim numbers. I just hope this is something that they look at and say, well, everything's working fine. I don't know what your problem is. That's usually the way it goes though, isn't it? We get up to towards 190 degrees coolant temperature, I'll probably hit the throttle a few times and see how the trim numbers and the oxygen sensors react to different RPMs. I sneak over one more time and see if I'm getting any misfires, which I usually only get until we go closed loop, and then they're really random at that point. Yeah, not much really to see there. Maybe mass airflow, manifold pressure. Back to screen one. Gosh, those fuel trims look good. Got about a 25 or 30 minute drive to get to the service shop. I'm going to unplug my scan gauge on that drive and plug in my e-recorder. And then when I get to the service center, I'll remove the e-recorder and plug the scan gauge back in so I can see if the oxygen sensor and the fuel trims are continuing to work correctly. And then I'm going to send that file to John and see if he can see anything. But if it's running good, I don't know what he's going to see. Although I will be putting it under some pretty good load, pulling a hill. So I'll try to give him some wide open throttle probably, to some degree. Well, this so far has been 17 minutes of riveting, exciting video content. I've just turned on my tire pressure monitor, so if you hear a beep, it's probably because the tire pressure is low on the Toad that I'm parked nearby. So it's not a tone coming off the scan gauge, if it does so tone, which I expect it will. It's a cool morning this morning. Tire pressures are a bit low probably. All the oxygen sensors that I've been using are all AC Delco OEM originals. Tire pressure monitor, disregard. Mass airflow sensor, Delphi. Fuel injectors have all been reconditioned, spray pattern tuned by Dr. Injector in Federal Way. New spark plugs, Iridium, was it 4101, gapped at 0.06. Magnum Ultra Power, Magnum, I think it's Ultra Power, Magnum spark plug wires 4 years old. Fresh new fuel filter. I've taken 2 fuel samples from the fuel rail, about a pint from a level condition. I'm at about a half a tank of gas right now. And another sample taken when my motorhome is parked downhill on my driveway at, I wouldn't say a steep angle, but probably a, I don't know, 3% grade. Took another sample at that point. Put them in a glass jar, let them sit, checked them the next day. I can't find any evidence of water in them. I even took a little bit of water and put it in myself to make sure I would be able to see the water at the bottom of the jar, and yes, I can. So, no water in the fuel. Okay, we're at about 190 degrees now. I'm getting tired of holding this smartphone, so I'm going to start playing with the throttle here just a little bit, and let's see what happens. You can see the RPM there in the upper right corner. I don't know if it's my imagination, but it felt like I had a couple misses in there. No, I guess not. That's probably my imagination. Okay. Back to idle. So far everything seems to be working just fine. So this will be a good baseline of everything in a working condition. I think while this settles in here just a little bit, let me go over to the next screen. There's my manifold pressure in the center there. Mass airflow in the upper right. 3,000 RPM. I'm not sure if that means anything to anybody, but you go over to the misfire screen. There's about 2,000 RPM. 2,500 RPM. Now I'm going to back off, back to idle. Sneak back over to screen 1. Watch this just for a little bit. I think we're gonna call this a wrap. It's going to be really difficult today to drop this thing off if there's no problem. Oh, let's check pending code real quick. Everybody happy? Okay, that's been about 27 minutes and we're at operating temperature. So let's call it good.